Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Keith Ives, CEO of Causal Design. Keith, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
The U.S. Agency for International Development has really been in Trump administration's crosshairs since President Trump started his second term. The State Department announced last week it told Congress that they are going to go through with effectively dismantling the entire agency and then reorganizing some of it to the State Department. But before we get into your reaction to that news, you've worked with USAID. Can you talk about how exactly you've worked with them and your company works with them?
Yeah, thank you. Causal Design, we're a research, evaluation, and economic analysis firm. And for the past 11 years, we've been supporting USAID as well as other development organizations, nonprofits, and even governments overseas with understanding the impact of foreign assistance. So we design experiments and evaluations to, one, hold both donors and implementing partners, those nonprofits that are normally delivering projects overseas, to hold them accountable, to ensure they're doing what they said they were going to do and avoiding the concerns of fraud, waste, and abuse. And then two, we also help them optimize, providing research and insights into what works and also how to do it better and how to do it at a lower cost. And, we've done that for years. We're a small business. And so 10 years ago when we started, we were doing a lot of small scale elements. And then as of January this year, we were working in 25 countries around the world, supporting USAID with these types of analytics and evaluation.
So if you've been in this business now for over a decade, you have worked in the Obama years, Trump years part one, Biden years, and Trump years part two. What do you think then is missing from this conversation when it comes to the impact of foreign aid? Because people who are critical of this say, hey, this is not only hurting people abroad, this is hurting our friends abroad. This is also hurting research and small businesses here. People who are supporting the cuts are saying, hey, we need to put America first. There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. Where do you land?
Yeah. We've worked through numerous administrations, different political agendas and policy objectives. I think, one, we need to make sure that when we're talking about this, we talk about humanitarian assistance, which is something that individuals and communities might pursue on their own and value just on the value of life. And that is a tool that we use in foreign assistance, but foreign assistance isn't just humanitarian work. It's a policy tool. It's a relationship tool, and every administration uses it a little differently to focus on expanding trade, securing our borders, and reducing migration. The foreign policy is a much larger umbrella than just humanitarian assistance, and humanitarian assistance is one of those tools. It's one of the most powerful tools that we have. To demonstrate to the world and to other communities what we value, and what it means to be American, to demonstrate and even nudge other countries towards the democratic values that we hold. So it's an incredible tool, and it's always, for decades, it's been a tool that every administration has wanted to use. They might change it a little bit, but it's a powerful tool, and it's dumbfounding to watch the administration dismantle it and set it aside.
Let's talk about that reaction just a little bit more, because since President Trump came into office now the second time, USAID has faced cuts. Now the State Department says it is officially going to be shuttered, with some of its responsibilities being moved over to the State Department. What is your reaction to that news?
Well, today I'm glad they have a plan, because since January 27th, we had a stop work order that stopped all aid flows, all foreign assistance, killed, all of these activities, stopped them dead in their tracks. And then 3 months later, they finally have a plan. So I'm thrilled to see a plan. I actually think that the way that they're reorganizing, folding it under State Department, emphasizing the role of some other development agencies that we have in our government that we don't talk about as much, like the Millennium Challenge Corporation, the Development Finance Corporation. Those are powerful tools for foreign assistance and trade, and they were doing great work. And I'm glad that we're going to expand that work. And I think there'll be some synergies by bringing those together and having them more closely coordinated I am concerned, though, that we are pulling everything into the State Department, which, the State Department has a different objective. It has a different mission. And I think at a quick glance for the average American, we go, oh, the State Department does everything overseas. So it makes sense that everything international should be under the State Department. But their objectives are usually more political and more relational, whereas some of these other niche agencies like USAID have a different mission that it's actually, and there's an added value to it being independent in pursuing that.
I want to read part of Secretary of State Marco Rubio's statement on this. He said this, quote, "Thanks to President Trump, this misguided and fiscally irresponsible era is now over. We are reorienting our foreign assistance programs to align directly with what is best for the United States and our citizens." What do you make of that? And what do you think, knowing, because you know USAID, what do you think is best for the United States and its citizens?
Well, first of all, calling this whole process responsible is just false. It wasn't a review. It was just a gutting. I heard the analogy someone said this was like doing surgery with an axe. Secretary Rubio asserted in court filings that he personally reviewed over 8,000 contracts to ensure that they weren't, doing these things that they're accusing the agency and its activities of doing. I saw the data point that somebody did the math on the period of time where he's asserted he did that review, and that means he would have dedicated on average 8 seconds to every contractor review. There's no way that was a responsible, intentional review. An example, one of the things, contracts that our firm has that's been terminated now, was to do the third-party monitoring of our emergency food aid programs in the conflict-affected areas of Sudan and South Sudan. I am really glad to see that some of the contracts and grants to deliver food aid continue in that area. But now, who's monitoring it? Who's ensuring that the U.S. interests are actually being delivered? When they just wholesale dismantle the foreign assistance, program and activities, these aren't just individual pieces. It's a concert of contracts that ensure that we're delivering aid to the right places in the right way, that there isn't fraud. And I think they've intentionally or unintentionally dismantled actually a lot of the things that assure the American public that our dollars are being spent in a way that benefits America.
I mean, if that math is correct and it's on average 8 seconds to look at a contract, that's really not enough time to read an entire contract, absorb it, and then make a decision. So let's say you were talking not with me, but with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. What exactly would you tell him? I mean, what do you think he's missing here?
Yeah. I don't know where I'd start because I'm so dumbfounded by the difference of what's being said and what was done. I would have loved a thorough review. I'm an evaluator. I've dedicated my career to aid effectiveness and accountability in foreign assistance. I would have loved to have been a part of it. Let's do a review. Let's go through, while programs continue, let's go through and let's look at these and let's make them make sense for this administration. But the narrative that they're giving the public doesn't align with reality. Two of the contracts that Causal Design had terminated were issued by the last Trump administration. And if these are in fact fraud, waste, and abuse, then under those two contracts, that would have been under the supervision of Trump during his first administration. So that was his fraud, waste, and abuse. And clearly that's not the case. These were meaningful, powerful, and valid work that we were doing. And they were just dismantling it. The other big point that I would make to Rubio is that these actions have not made America safer, stronger, and more prosperous. What they've done is devastated small businesses here in America. When we go on the news and people hear about foreign assistance, they always think about the programs that are happening overseas, in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America. And that's right, we should think about the humanitarian impact that we're having. But the people delivering that work are U.S. small businesses like our firm that lost 90% of its revenue. And as of tomorrow, April 1st, we'll be down to 10% of our employees. And by June 1st, I don't know that we'll be in business. This is killing businesses across the country. We're not a DC-based firm. We're based here in Colorado. And there are thousands of U.S. businesses and tens of thousands of Americans who've been devastated by this. And the run-on effect economically and socially here in America will be enormous.
You're a veteran, you're a CEO of a small business, and it's really alarming to hear you say 90% of this business has been chopped at its knees. I don't know if we will be in business come June, and tomorrow is April 1st. So talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, because this is being reorganized to the State Department, do you think, is that a glimmer of hope for you or no?
No, it's not. I think, again, we need to be clear that it is a reorganization of our foreign aid infrastructure, but it's still a gutting of it. It's still a complete dismantling of those systems. There are programs that are continuing, and those are going to continue under the State Department, but they're a fraction of what was being done before. The majority is going to be concentrated on that emergency humanitarian work, as well as some that's more focused on economic development and investment. And again, I'm thrilled to see some pieces moving forward, but it's such a small fraction. It's not going to help. Not us as small businesses. You know, the other piece is that this review process dealt a blow to our business and probably hundreds of other small businesses working in this area that we can't recover from. Our firm has invoices from November, in December, in January for work that was approved and delivered that still hasn't been paid. It wasn't just the review. We haven't been paid, and we're not alone in this. And we've been paid for work we did last year. And because of that, the financial implications, I'm not sure that we can recover. I'm not sure that U.S. banks are going to make credit available to firms like ours anymore. The government has always been seen as a very safe and reliable client. And when small businesses that work in government contracting seek financial tools to finance this work, it's a safe bet for banks. Government contracting is not a safe bet for banks anymore. The Treasury is not releasing payments.
That is really, really alarming to hear. I mean, do you think that the Trump administration knows just how devastating these cuts have been for small businesses like your own?
Yeah. I hope so. I think my concern is they're moving so fast, and so swiftly and so dramatically that they're not paying attention. You know, if there was the due diligence of the unintended consequences, then they wouldn't have done this, and they would have done it with intention. We had no warning. When our stop work orders came for 100% of our U.S. federal work, there was no warning. It wasn't hey, we're going to turn these programs off, we're going to ramp down and give us all time to pivot. They cut it with an axe, didn't pay us what they owed us for work before the executive order. You can't take those sort of actions unless you're someone like Elon Musk or Trump, and you're not going to feel those consequences. You're not concerned about the small guy. I mean, this is there's just no way around it. This is demolishing small businesses. And while they do this, they parrot these lines like, "Oh, it's just Beltway bandits, and it's just DC, and it's the swamp." But I'm sitting here in Denver, Colorado, with employees in 11 states. And that's who's being hit.
And you're sitting in Denver, Colorado, still waiting to get paid for work you did in 2024. So how are you going to get paid for that work? Is there any lawsuit? What are your next steps?
Yeah, so we are engaged through a membership association, the Small Business Association of International Companies. And we're a plaintiff in a court case, one that's gone all the way to the Supreme Court now and then come back down and told the government, you need to pay them for work they did. but those payments are slow coming. I think some of our peers have gotten paid up to maybe 50 or 60% of what the government owes them. We still haven't received our payments. And the government is saying that they're going to pay them. They're saying they need another month. But again, that's those unintended consequences. In their original filings, they said, oh, we have no way of making these payments. And our point back to them was, well, that's what happens when you fire everyone in an agency and you get rid of all your contract officers. You get rid of everyone who approves the payments. The analogy that I read was, the government saying they don't have the infrastructure to ensure that these payments are made and get them done on a timely basis is akin to the child who kills his parents and then begs for mercy because he's an orphan. They obliterated the system and now are complaining that they don't have the capability to pay us what we're owed.
Keith, I will certainly be hoping for a follow-up conversation here. But before I do, I'm curious, what's next for Causal Design? Because you're saying, hey, might not be in business come June. I know you're a veteran. You were a Marine veteran. I am related to Marine veterans. I know just how problem-solving, solution-oriented they are. I mean, what's next for you? What are you thinking of next?
Yeah. Adapt, improvise, and overcome. The last few months have leveraged all of that. And every day I wake up and go, how do we solve today's problem? Right now, my focus is on our employees, which we've been trying to give them as much notice and financial assistance as possible, making sure that they land and they continue their careers. To be honest, I'm not worried about the business. I'm worried about our staff. I'm worried about the sector as a whole. I'm working hard with industry associations. I'm talking to my representatives and trying to get out the message about how important this work is. And I'll figure out what's next for me later on. But that's, since I was 18 and raised my hand and stepped onto the yellow footprints to become a Marine, I've been mission oriented. And that's been in humanitarian action. It's been in development economics and now in accountability on aid. We'll figure out what's next and the mission will continue.
Keith, I really appreciate the conversation today. Best of luck to you, and I hope we can have a follow-up soon. Thank you again for joining me.
Thank you.